Good morning, students. Today, also in continuation with yesterday's lecture, I am going to continue the same lecture, and today is the last lecture for this digestive system, and we will start a new system if from the next time onwards. So, let us start. Let me first make it a slideshow. So you have already read till the intestine, the liver, gallbladder, and the pancreas. How does their secretions reach into the duodenum, the second part of duodenum, via the ampulla of Vater, via the joining of the the common bile duct and the pancreatic ducts. So when the bile reaches from the liver and the digestive enzymes from the pancreas, so liver is bringing the bile, the concentrated bile, the common bile duct is bringing the concentrated bile from the liver and gallbladder, and the digestive enzymes are being secreted by the pancreas, and the bile and digestive enzymes and the secretions of pancreas are being released into the second part of the duodenum, and from there these two then act on the chyme or chyme. Some people say chyme, some say chyme. Okay, so the food in the stomach which has been acted upon the enzymes of the stomach and the acid of the stomach, and it has been churned, so it becomes a semi-solid mass of digested food, and this is expelled by the stomach after the stomach has acted upon it. So whatever semi-solid mass of somewhat digested food which enters from the stomach into the duodenum is called as the chyme. So, this chyme will now be acted upon by the bile and the digestive enzymes from the pancreas. Then enzymes produced by the epithelial cell linings in the duodenum then catalyze the final step in the digestion of the major types of nutrients. That means the food has been digested up to a major extent in the stomach. It's churning and it has been acted upon by the acid and some enzymes in the stomach. But the final major catalyzing step in the digestion occurs in the duodenum, and then some absorption also start taking place in the duodenum. So the final steps with the help of bile and digestive pancreatic enzymes is being done in the duodenum, and then the food becomes ready for the digestion, for the absorption into nutrients. So the chyme moves through the digestive tract by peristalsis. So I have already told you the peristalsis is the movement of the GI tract, the tube, which which has smooth some waves of peristalsis, some waves of motion occur, and they propel the food downwards towards the anal orifice eventually. So and they propel the food distally, so that wave of motion to propel the food from proximal towards the distal end, the anal or orifice of the gastrointestinal tract, is called as the peristalsis. So the chyme moves through the digestive tract by peristalsis and then mixing contractions and motions of the villi. So villi are the structures which are present onto the wall of the cells of the intestine, and these help in the absorption. They increase the surface or area of the cells, and they help in absorption. So by manifold increase in the surface area of the intestine, and also they beat in a downward motion, and also by the mixing contractions. All these things made the chyme move through the digestive tract and the intestines. Nutrients in the chyme come into contact with enzymes that digest them. So what are the enzymes which are gonna digest these nutrients? Carbohydrates are digested by the enzymes which are called as like amylases, maltases, and they are being digested into very simpler forms like monosaccharides or simple sugars, which can be easily absorbed into our digestive system, via our intestine into our system. Proteins are digested into very simpler forms, the basic units of proteins, which are amino acids. Similarly, fats are digested to fatty acids and monoacyl glycerols, which are very simplest forms of the fats, and they can be absorbed into our system. So the complex carbohydrates, proteins, and fats now has been acted upon by the stomach and duodenum, in the stomach and duodenum, by the various gastric enzymes, pancreatic enzymes, and the bile juices, so that they now break down into very simplest forms of themselves there, and they can be absorbed very easily via the intestine. So the chemical digestion of complex molecules leads to, like, carbohydrates leads to simple sugars, fats lead to fatty acids and glycerols, proteins lead to maltose, amino acids basically proteases. So now and okay, so how does this happen? When does the enzymes are released? When is the secretion is released? When is the bile is released? When is the gastric acid is released? So all these juices, enzymes, which are in their inert form, they become activated in their activated form. So how does all this occur? All this regulation occurs with the help of some nervous stimulation and some hormones. So secretion of the digestive juices and enzymes is regulated by nerves and hormones, and the nerves which regulate this GI tract system are called as enteric nervous system. So it is part of the main nervous system, but the nerves of the, especially of the parasympathetic system, especially the vagus nerve, which is a part majorly contributing nervous control over the gastrointestinal tract. This whole system of the nerves is called as the enteric nervous system. Enteric means gastrointestinal. So the enteric nervous system continues to regulate many motor and other secretory activities of the digestive system, even if sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves to these organs are cut. Several hormones, including gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, and gastric inhibitory peptide, help regulate the digestive system. So, all these are the enzymes which are. These all are the hormones, like gastrin, secretin, which help in regulating the digestive system, the activity of different enzymes, their activation, and the release of different juices. So it is basically the balance of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and parasympathetic are basically important in the release of all these. So you have this table, and you can just go through the there is some a gastrin hormone which is secreted by the stomach mucosa, and it act upon the gastric glands of the stomach to secrete the stimulate the gastric glands to secrete pepsinogen, and this pepsinogen is then converted into the pepsin, which is an gastric enzyme. Similarly, secretin is being secreted from the duodenal mucosa, and it acts upon the pancreas and liver, so that it gives signals for the secretion of sodium bicarbonate and bile secretion. Similarly, cholecystokinin secreted from the duodenum act upon the gallbladder and pancreas and stimulate release of the digestive enzymes, and also contraction of the gallbladder, which empties the bile into the common bile duct. Similarly, gastric inhibitory peptide. So that is how hormones are being secreted from a particular source, particular part of the GI tract, which upon specific target organs, and these are their actions. So you can go through so that they can help you in understanding the physiology also of the digestion process. So, absorption in action. Absorption is a process by which substances are taken in by cells of the food tube. Absorption takes place mainly through the villi of the small intestine. Digested food in the form of amino acids, simple sugar, fatty acid, glycerol diffuse into the cells of the villi. So, villi, I have already told you that villi are the simple uh, cell wall projections which increase the surface area of the small intestine manifold, so that the greater is the surface area, more is the absorption of nutrients. So villi makes a healthy intestines. If there is loss of villi, the intestinal wall will have a very less absorptive surface, and less amount of absorption of the nutrients would take place. So for absorption, our villi are very important, and villi are a specific feature of the small intestine itself. No other tissue does have these specific villi. So you can just see that this is the wall of the mucosa. Like this is the mucosa and the cell, and from the cell there are these cellular projections. This is a three-dimensional image, and these projections are called as, this is one of the villus, this is another villus, this is another villus, this is another villus. And in the center of the villus there is a blood capillary, and there is a lacteal in the center. You can see, so these are the vessels. This is a artery giving lots of capillaries, and this is their venous end and goes into the venous system. So major of the nutrients are being absorbed via these blood capillaries, but you must be knowing that there are large molecules which are not being absorbed by the capillaries. For those larger molecules to be absorbed, we do have lacteal. Lacteal are the beginning of the lymph vessels. So every villi has lacteal, so that the nutrients which are bigger in size and are not being absorbed by the blood capillaries, they get into these lacteals and they enter the lymphatic system, and via the lymphatic system they are eventually drained into the venous system and then into the blood circulation. So that is how we get all the smaller and greater size molecules from the food, the nutrients, via the help of blood capillaries as well as lacteals. So these lacteals are very important for absorption of larger molecules, especially fatty acid components. So the process of digestion now takes place. Most of the digested food diffuse into capillaries and reach the blood, while fatty acids and glycerol diffuse into the lacteals and reach another circulating fluid called the lymph. Okay, I have already explained you. So through diffusion, digested food reaches the blood and lymph and undergoes a process called circulation, and this circulating fluid distributes the digested food nutrients to all the cells of the body. That is how our circulation is very important, because it is not making the only the gases reach the oxygen to the cell and taking the carbon dioxide. The blood circulation also distributes all the nutrients which are needed for each and every cell of our body. So the circulating system, the blood in this is act as a medium for the transport of these nutrients, and also taking the metabolic products, and also the gaseous exchange takes place, and various immune cells are there in the blood. So blood is, or plasma forms that medium for all these activities, and it's very important. So now coming on to the large intestine, what has already happened till now is that in the small intestine, the food has been completely digested and absorbed, and now some waste materials are being left, which are neither needs to be absorbed and they needs to be eliminated out of our body, because there is no need for those elimination, those eliminates or those waste products of the after the digestion and absorption. So large intestine has the part, the role play that the waste material which has been left over after digestion and absorption of the food needs to be eliminated via the different parts of the large intestine, and while passing through the large intestine from its proximal to distal end, that is from cecum, then to ascending colon, then to transverse colon, then descending colon, then sigmoid colon, rectum and anal canal. So while passing through all the components of the greater or the larger intestine, some salts like chloride are being absorbed and some water is being absorbed, so that the semi-solid mass means it becomes less watery and more solid towards the solid. So that is how that is a function of the large intestines, and also it acts as a storehouse for those that eliminated waste, so that it can be stored and can be evacuated at a particular time when the per- person is free to eliminate at a proper site, proper place. So although shorter in length than the small intestine, these are called large because the large intestine has a bigger, very larger diameter than compared with the small intestine. So the large intestine is 1.3 meter in length, and you can see this is the location how the small large intestine is being located, and these are the parts. Here is the ileocecal junction. The ileum terminates and opens up into the cecum, and this is the first part of the large intestine, which is quite dilated part. This is called as cecum, and from the cecum the intestine continue as the ascending colon because it ascends upwards. Then the transverse colon lying horizontally or transversely in the abdominal cavity, and then it continues as the descending colon because it descends downwards. And here is the oblique part, the sigmoid colon, then the rectum, which has a dilated appearance, and rectal ampulla is the dilated ampullary space, and to the anal orifice. So and here are the flexures, because the transition of ascending colon to horizontal, the transverse colon, here is an angle, is a bend, which is called as a flexure. So this is towards the right hypochondrium, towards under the liver. So this is called as hepatic flexure or the right colic flexure, because the large intestine is referred to as the colon. So this is colic flexure, and on the right, so right colic flexure. Similarly, this is the left colic flexure, which is actually the junction of the transverse colon with the descending colon, and because spleen lies here in its relation, so this is also called as splenic flexure. So the left colic flexure is also called as the splenic flexure, and the right colic flexure is also called as the hepatic flexure. Hepata word is used for liver. And then the sigmoid colon, which continue into the rectum, and rectum forms a major site for the storage of the eliminate waste. And whenever the food reaches in the anal canal, it gives an urge to evacuate, and then the person can go and evacuate the waste. So that is how the large intestine works and functions. So now we need to understand that sometimes we use the term elimination and sometimes we use the word excretion. So elimination is the process of getting rid of digested waste, materials that have not been absorbed from the digestive tract and did not participate in metabolic activities. So this is the leftover of the food which has been digested and absorbed, and so in the digestive tract, and this food is this leftover is does not participate in any metabolic activities. And excretion is the process of getting rid of the metabolic waste. This was getting rid of the digestive and absorptive waste in the large in the gastrointestinal tract. But here it is getting rid of the metabolic waste, which are metabolic waste are actually the end products of various chemical reactions which are taking place inside our body in various organs, under all the cellular processes which are going on inside our body. So like the simple sugars are being, like glucose is being stored into glycogen, glycogen is being broken down into the glucose, the fatty acids are being metabolized, the amino acids are used for the protein formation, for the body building materials of the body. So all these chemical reactions are going on, and during these chemical reaction there are certain chemical release which are not good for the body, so they needs to be excreted out of the body. So the waste of the metabolic reactions are called as a metabolic waste, and these needs to be evacuated. So in mammals the function of excretion is mainly done by the kidneys and the lungs. So note, however, the large intestine excrete bile pigments also. Bile pigments are also metabolic waste, so, but some bile pigments are being released into the intestine and are being evacuated along with the eliminates the waste products of the digestion via the GI tract also, and some are excreted via the kidneys and the lungs. So kidneys form the main excretory, and the lungs also via the breathing process. We also during the inhalation and specifically during the exhalation, we release the volatile metabolic waste, and which are not volatile, they just dissolve in the blood and they get circulated via the kidneys, and then kidneys excrete these via the formation of urine. So that is how it is very important to keep your gut clear, because there are lots of waste products here which needs to be evacuated from our body. Similarly, there are many metabolic waste products which are need to be released out of our body. So the function of kidneys, the breathing in our lungs, and also sweating via our skin, these are all modes of excretion, and GI tract is the mode of elimination. But all these combined together help us in getting rid of us various harmful and toxic substance in our body. So all these organs need to function in harmony, and so that we can live into a detoxified state, and our functional function may be in harmony. So, however, okay, we have covered it. So there are some things, some illnesses involving the elimination of waste, because we are dealing with large intestines. Sometimes diarrhea occurs. That means there's a lot of water which is being added to the semi-solid and the solid mass. So this happens when chyme passes too rapidly, and this may be caused by anxiety, certain foods which to which we might be allergic, and sometimes certain disease causing organisms that cause the intestinal lining. So the food doesn't stay in the intestine for proper time, so that it does not get digested and absorbed timely, and it passes too fast, so that lot of water is there. Water has not been reabsorbed, because it takes time for the digestion, for the absorption of all these salts, water, and also all the nutrients. So the food is passed undigested or partially digested and with lot of water. That is the diarrhea. So this can be a consequence of various, sometimes when we are anxious, we are having an exam and a viva or certain situation, we feel like going to the washroom. This is because of the anxiety, inner anxiety, the stimulation by the nerves, and the rapid peristaltic movements of the intestine. Certain foods may cause irritation of the wall of the intestine. Sometimes certain disease causing organisms, certain bacilli and certain worms which irritate the intestinal lining, causing diarrhea. There is an entity called as constipation if this is the result of too slowly passing of the chyme through the intestine. If the intestinal motility and peristalsis is too slow, we drink less water, we eat less fibers in our diet, so the food passes very slowly, and so eventually when the food the elimination waste reaches to the rectum and anal canal, it becomes lot very less in amount because of the excessive absorption of all the water and salts, and so the food becomes more of towards the solid consistency, it becomes less in amount, and that is why it passes too slowly. So that leads to constipation. If we eat fibers, lot of water, and we do physical activity, our intestinal motility remains in harmony, and the constipation can be relieved. So the patients having a constipation needs to take lot of fiber, lot of water, and physical activity, so that their intestinal motility is not hampered. And there is sometimes malignancy of the colon or rectum occurs, called as colorectal carcinomas, and they involve the colon and rectum. So there might be a possibility of that. So thank you so much, students, and keep reading, stay safe. Thank you.